Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be talking about this aid coin chart as well as hardware wallets. And we'll start off with hardware wallets and then work our way into this chart. For about the past close to 1 year now, I have been seeing this message often. For every time I log in, we'll say, to my hardware wallet, I get a warning. Your Trezor is already set up. Before you update firmware, please make sure that you have recovery seed with you. And I read the instructions on what is needed to be done, and it's something I could do, but every single time I always push this button. One, because you know what? There's that little small part of me. I shouldn't be scared, but I am, and of course this is easier. Push this button, put my PIN number in, and I'm ready to go. I can send my Bitcoin or Litecoin as I may. And I know that there's a lot of coins available on the Trezor, which is a very awesome hardware wallet, especially when comparing it to the Nano Ledger. At least for myself, I do on a scale of 1 to 100 on how much I like both of the wallets. A Trezor maybe about an 80 or a 90, and then Nano about a -10 or a +10. I really don't like that wallet at all. And therefore, what I decided to do was, well, you know what? I see that they're pretty cheap to buy. They're half the cost, maybe even 60% cheaper against the dollar anyway to buy a wallet. So I bought one. And what I can do is I can move my funds to this one, which should automatically be set up anyway. Then I can do all this stuff with this wallet, and maybe I can give my other one away, which basically to my parents, and they would no longer use that Nano, which I do not like, and I can move their funds from the Nano to that, and then pass over the recovery seeds and all that kind of stuff as well. But within such and the trading of altcoins, I seen a good list of about 200, 300 available with just that Ledger one or the Nano or the Trezor one. The newer one, I don't see any reason to pay the higher price for it. I've never tried the Keep Key. I would be very interested to see how that one is, and I do not like the Nano Ledger at all. Alright then. So the plan is, as I've been saying in my tutorial of the series, let's move the majority of the funds onto there. So put all the altcoins in there, trade about 6, 7 coins, 8 coins that way, and then move them back and really leave the bare minimum of the altcoins on the exchanges. So that is the strategy moving forward, and we'll see what coins are available on there. And I looked at a list of them and I seen a whole bunch, and right now as it is with the original one that I'm going with, I have access to a small amount, a little over half a dozen. But anyway, throwing that aside, AidCoin. Now as far as its previous moves, just scrolling back, you look at this here back in August, and then what we can see in here, we had a day on July 26th, July 24th, and then June 23rd through the 24th. Even a small one here on October the 8th. This little nice up and down move, and it's always nice if it's going to go down, have a failed breakout first, because then you can get some sell orders hit first, and yada yada yada. I actually watched a Seinfeld episode yesterday, yada yada yada. One of my favorite shows of all time. But it's a good word, the yada yada yada, in that it explains a whole series of events that you would pretty much know what they would be. So I like those terms. Anyway, you have this move. This is somewhat similar to Theta. Relatively similar. So I find this interesting because Theta had that day at the end of November, November 30th, where it went up like 3x. This one went up like 500 to, it did 3x as well. Came back to where it came from. And I was talking before about this pattern in here, about how this 18 average was or how the price action was just not leaving 1,000. No one really wanting to buy or sell. A little bit of an interesting day here on February 13th, but I mean, little bit would be definitely uh, an overstatement. Uh, and then this day here, which comes up to 1,400 and then back down. I mean, just incredible that it's able to do stuff like that. So therefore, what are we seeing within it now? It comes up to here, and today's session is breaking out of the 18. As it's been rising, this I find very, very interesting. Let's look at this on a shorter term. Actually, 4 hour I think would be better. Okay, this move here, it goes all the way up to 1,400 and comes back. So that worked out great. I sold up top and I bought back down here. Now I'm playing this, to say that I'm playing this aggressively compared to normal is totally, I'd be an understatement for sure, because if this thing goes up to 1,400, I'm not selling. And I'm definitely selling on a large break above this level. Where's my sell order? Basically 2,000. Little under. Sell at 14. Buy at about 1,020-ish or so, 2,030. It was one of those spots where I had a buy order in for like, I think it was like 1,005. Well, 1,005. Would have been like lower than that. Probably like 1,002 or 1,001. And then I was looking at it. It was 1020 or 1030, or it was on its way down, and it was at 1020, 1030. I think that would have made sense. Let me look at this on the single hour. Yeah, it would have been on its way down. I would have been seeing it like this at 1076, and well, what? I bought it below 1058. What was this low? 1005. So yeah, I would have missed the buy order because I would have had probably 1002 or something, and then I would have bought somewhere in here. One of those prices right around 1030, and I'm glad I did, because obviously the market since then has had a good run. But I think the probability of this, as I'm looking at the chart analysis for this to be good, is going to be magnificent. Now let's see if me being quote unquote greedy on my sell order allocation, because I can change it any time if I wish. At least at this time I can, not at any time, but any time until I can't, I should say. Because I could easily stick it, put it at 1377, and that's 30+% my last trade. Because I bought it like 1030, 1020. And it's either that, or I sell at a big level. Now at 1900 or 2000, has it ever been there before? Well, I see. Oh, yeah. Now, if you go back to previous... See, to me, I look at this level of resistance here, all of these points. We got this one here, which matches this. You know what? This is not that much larger from here to here. I really don't think it is. So now we got this level, which is 1800, which is now a decent level higher. I use that whole three little bears ideology, as in, like the porridge or the bed, it has to be just right. Can't be too hard, can't be too soft, can't be too cold, can't be too hot, all that kind of stuff. Can't be too up, can't be too down. And that's what I'm looking at here. Because up to about 1550 is not up enough. It's not, it's no. And if it goes up to 3,500, although that's fine for me, that's up too much. So just right would be somewhere around like 2021, and conservatively I'll go under 2000, which will match this level of previous resistance. Oh, man, I wish there'd be an easier way of going back and scrolling the first few days, but yeah, this is where I would like to think it's got the potential to go, and this previous level of support rather has been resistance on quite some time, and to me this is just a good pierce below that. So again, breaking out above in here, decent leg, and I could technically, I still don't know if I'm doing the right play or not. I could put a sell order in at 1350, 1370, and then just stick another one At 1960, if I do that, I'll be cost averaging to about 17, which is still fine. So risk reward. Well, the advantage of waiting and selling at say 2000 is I'm going to work out better just because selling at 2000 compared to 17 is more profitable. And that's the gain. The loss is the potential reward I'm going to get. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go over an example of risk reward I've been meaning to think about but always forget about, especially football season's over. But do that at the end of this because there's a simple way of explaining risk and reward mathematically. But in this one here, I got to look at the odds of, okay, so I'm going to sell it here, realizing that if it doesn't come back down, I'm going to have my next sell order in at 2,000. We got either way. If I'm selling at 1370, the next sell order is like next key level 1980-ish, whatever. But by getting my pullback, then I get the free play that I would not have gotten. So I have to calculate what is the mathematical odds on a hit at this level. What is more likely to happen, and not only more likely, but to what type of ratio. Once you reach previous high, near that of 14, are you more likely to come back? And then you have to pick a number. So we'll say in here, we'll even say just a little bit of an upgrade, like you almost have to go like say 1150, 1200, which and each number you go up, the chances are better you're going to hit it, but your mathematical odds of profit go down each time because buying back at 1200 is less profitable than buying back at 1000. But you're more likely to say go to 12 as your next play or go to 2000 as your next play. And I think as it's playing out, it is way too likely that if it goes here, that it's just going to continue to go to 2 compared to have any type of pullback where I would buy, which I think I'd have to buy at 12. And by buying at 12, that's 200 off of 14. 140 is 10%. Add the number 60, that's like 14%, because 70 would make it 15. That's like 4, and then with rake, we'll say 14. That's just not good. So that's why I'm making the play. And then I don't want to sell it like 15, 20. I suppose I could go conservative and sell like 17. And then from there, where do I go from there? Because most likely it's not going to get above 2 too much, or I don't like my odds of it going to 24, 26 as much. Anyway, let's now talk about risk reward. And I'm going to use a very simple mathematical way of calculating it. Football scoring is one easy way. And in the game, after you score a touchdown, there's a point after attempt, as they call it, the PAT. And if you can kick the ball through the uprights, it's 1 point. And if you advance the ball to the goal line, basically go for 2, as they say, well, you get those 2 points. And it was probably the year 2005, maybe? And I'm playing the Madden game, and I'm thinking mathematically, I mean, why don't I just go for 2? I mean, the math is simple. What's the chances that I make the kick? It's pretty much 100%, but we'll just go 99%. That seemed to be back then when you're kicking from the 2-yard line, what the percentage was. So therefore, if I'm going to kick it 100 times, I'm going to score 90, or if I'm going to, 100 times, I'm going to score 99 points. But if I were to go for 2 every single time and make it 60 times, I would score 120 points, which is plus 29. And technically speaking, as long as it's greater than 50%, I mean, that's just simple math at this stage. It's assuming, even if you'd say that's 100%, it just you always make it. Which it almost was, and it still kind of is. Then if you're going to do better than 50%, you're going to beat that line. So therefore, you start the game off. No score. You score a touchdown at 6-0. Well, now when I kick off, it's either going to still be 6-0 or 8-0, but more times it's going to be 8-0. And by doing this in a season, I'd look at my season stats and I'd see my 2-point conversion attempts, and maybe it's something like, I don't know, 28 of 47 or something. And I'm thinking, well, that's 56 points, and that's better than what 46 or 47 would have been. And just I was like, why don't teams ever do this? The mathematics is correct. Now, obviously, when you get later in the game, you play based on the score. For if say this, I'm down by 6 points in the third quarter or fourth quarter or all that type of stuff, and I get a touchdown, I'm just going to kick it to take the 1 point lead. But early in the game, first two quarters, or whenever it was stupid to go for two based on what the score of the game was, I would always do that, go for the extra 2 points on the game. Now, a few years ago, I started to notice mainly it was the Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, or Mike McCarthy and Tomlin. They were doing this. They were going for two, like in the first quarter and such. And well, it didn't. It kind of faded out, which is unfortunate. But even for today, the odds, the ante, has even been raised because if you kick the ball, you do so from like the 15-yard line or the 20-yard line, or it's further back now. And if you go for two, it's at the 2-yard line. So what's your chances of getting it from the two? Oftentimes, as a player, if I realized I thought my offensive matchup was bad, I would kick it. I would go to that stretch. But if I felt at this moment in time, as I stood after scoring, do I feel I have a better than 50% chance? If I was having a hard time executing a drive and I would just notice I was fortunate enough to get in, I might just send my kicker out because of the mathematics at that given moment, which is always how it always is. It's like in the markets, as I'm using this comparison, adjusting to the current message of the market because things can change on a day by day, hour by hour basis as things, of course, transpire and go through. So this is just one quick example, but I thought the rules should have been, why don't you just take the ball at the 5? That way, I would be thinking as a coach, if the points committee said, yeah, we're going to change the rule because you're going for two all the time. Yeah, it's going to be the 5-yard line where you either kick or you go for two. I'd be like, well, I guess I'm kicking all the time now, I'd be saying. But thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye. And oh yeah, by the way, the whole reason for me saying this again is whenever you're in a situation for where you can calculate risk and reward, try to find the ways, if it's what the numbers are. A lot of times it's not so hard to get a decent calculation to where your risk and reward is whenever you're in a spot where it's good to determine the two levels. Take care. Bye-bye.